All right. So yesterday we talked about the tribe that Igbo Biafrans need to avoid. We share that again. I promise to you that I will return back again for second part of it. Now you have it. Let's go there. But before then, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel and let us know what you think about what the video is all about. Your contribution by liking, sharing, commenting is very, very important. As you can see, we are still looking for people to join us here on this platform by making sure you like and subscribe to the channel in case if you are new. So yesterday, remember, I'm not gonna say what I said yesterday. You already know I'm not here to promote tribal bigot or hate or anything, but to set the record straight so that people will all know and understand the intention and agenda of why we are where we are today. So let's start with this very, very, very post. Igbos have always been power drunk and nothing has changed about them till date. On their matter in Nigeria, they will forever cry because our own Babe, Wanteji, I don't know, this is Yoruba language, I know that. It could be a proverb, I don't know what it means. I don't have time to translate that. Let's continue. After tying all these people in a queue 60 years ago, with just single tied Igbo leader, you want to have peace in Nigeria. I get the point now. Speak Yoruba again. If Atiku is somehow trying to get P2B support of the North, I think the North knows exactly what to do. Now, typical Yoruba person. Now, listen, I'm not going to say much. Pay close attention to this video you're about to listen. I'm going to take it back. Now, listen.
On January 15, 1966, Nigeria experienced her first military coup. It started quietly before dawn. While most Nigerians were asleep, soldiers were already moving across the country. They were going to specific people's homes. This was a coordinated operation planned by junior officers in the Nigerian army. The aim was to remove key political leaders, remove senior military commanders, and then to force the country under military rule in one sweep. Instead, it unfolded unevenly. One name sits at the center of January 1966, Chukwuma Kaduna Nzogu. He was a major in the Nigerian army and he was one of the planners of the coup. He personally led the operation in Kaduna, the northern region. Other officers led operations in Lagos and Ibadan, but Kaduna was under Nzogu's direct command. In Lagos, the federal capital at that time, soldiers went to the residence of Nigeria's prime minister, that was Abubakar Tafawa Balewa. Balewa was taken from his home in the early hours of the morning and he was driven away. Later that day, his body was found by the roadside outside Lagos. He had been shot and killed. That single act, it removed the head of Nigeria's civilian government. That same night, soldiers also went to the home of the Minister of Finance, Festus Otiebo. He was arrested and then he was killed by the coup soldiers. Senior military officers in Lagos were also targeted and they were killed in their homes. The intention was to prevent the army from organizing a response. But despite these killings, Lagos was not fully under the control of the coup plotters. The army there was divided. Then in Ibadan, soldiers went to the residence of the premier of the Western region. That was Samuel Ladoke Akintola. The Western region had already been unstable for years. It was marked by political violence, disputed elections. When soldiers arrived at Akintola's residence, there was a confrontation, gunfire followed, and then he was shot and killed. By morning, the Western region no longer had a premier. In the Eastern region, the coup largely failed. Political leaders were not killed. Senior military commanders, they remained in control. Government authority in the region did not collapse. This mattered because Nigeria did not fall under one military authority. The country was now split between areas where the coup had succeeded and areas where it had not. Then there was Kaduna. This was the political and military center of northern Nigeria. The main target there was Ahmadu Bello. Ahmadu Bello was the premier of northern Nigeria. He held the title Sedona of Sokoto, one of the most powerful positions in northern Nigeria. Okay? In the early hours of January 15, soldiers under Major Kaduna Nzogu's command, they went to his residence. This was not an arrest. Ahmadu Bello was shot and killed inside his home. His wife, Hafsatu Bello, she was also shot and killed during the same attack. Other senior officers and aides in Kaduna were killed as well. By sunrise, northern Nigeria had lost its most powerful political figure. I'll be talking more about Ahmadu Bello, the Sardauna of Sokoto, in my next video, so I won't go too much into him now. By the time Nigerians woke up that morning, the situation was deeply unstable. The Prime Minister had been killed. The premiers of the North and Western regions had been killed. Senior military commanders were dead. But leaders in the Eastern region were still alive and in control. In total, around 22 people were killed during the coup. The country had been shaken, but it was not under one authority. The coup depended on total control of the army. That never happened. Some units joined the coup, some units hesitated, others refused to take part. The most senior surviving army officer, Johnson Aguiyi-Ironsi, he was not involved in the plot. As the situation worsened, Ironsi moved to prevent the country from completely breaking apart. There were officers that were loyal to him, and they secured key locations and transport routes. Movement between regions was blocked completely. Although Nzogu had succeeded in Kaduna, he was now isolated. He could not move south. He could not expand the coup, so the operation stalled. Nzogu was arrested alive after the coup collapsed. Other officers involved in the coup were also arrested and they were detained. They were not executed. Ironsi chose to hold them in military custody instead. This decision, it later became controversial, especially in the north, where many felt that those responsible for the killings had not been punished badly enough. January 1966, it produced an outcome that Nigeria had never experienced before. The coup failed as a military takeover, but civilian rule still ended. So on January 16, 1966, power was formally handed to the army. Ironsi became the head of state. The constitution was suspended, and military rule started. The pattern of killings, it mattered, okay, because leaders in the north and west, they had been killed. Leaders in the east had survived. To many Nigerians, especially in the north, this felt uneven and it felt deliberate. In the months that followed, that anger, it spilled into widespread violence against Igbos in the north. It set off a chain of events that would eventually lead to the declaration of Biafra. A lot happened. Okay. 6 months later, in July 1966, a counter coup took place. Ironsi himself was killed, and Nigeria moved one step closer to civil war. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoy videos or stories like this, please don't forget to follow me. I tell the stories all the time on all my social media. Thanks.
Now, this is a Yoruba lady, right? And you heard what she said. Following what she said, one may believe, people are very bad. They just wake up and gang up on how to slaughter other people in Nigeria. This is Igbo coup. She skipped all the key parts deliberately because she don't want to, say it the way it is. From everything she said, you can say, you can think or maybe make up your mind and begin to not hate on Igbo people. That wasn't the main issue, because everybody know that the reason why those young officers, according to the story, carried out that coup is to actually help Awolowo. They just want to start Awolowo. A Yoruba person. Anytime Yorubas are facing any critical or challenge, they will start telling you the story of 1966 or whatever they call that. You heard the part where she said that Igbos faced, the challenges in the north. That's in program where they buy Igbo for fun, like buy millions of Igbos in the north and load their body and come and offload from north. They will come and float it in Enugu, in the eastern part, and go and carry another one. They massacred Igbos in the north for that singular act. But when they're telling you the story, they will skip it. She said that the total number of people died in that coup is 22. But how many did they buy in the north? Am I in support of banning of anybody because in the coup? No. But they acquired and revenge, even they acquired and go yet they're still not certified. They were not certified. Now, why are you shying away from saying the truth? You heard the past when she said that the Lagos was quiet, that the coup did not just escalate like as it did not last in Lagos. Who made this possible? Igbo officers. But they will cook up the story. They will look for a way to target on Igbo people just to make it look so ugly, so bad. Igbos are the one creating problem. They are the one. Igbos, these Igbo people. Omo Igbo. Anyway, let's hear another story. Now listen.
In 1966, there was a coup that happened in Nigeria. And that coup was carried out by soldiers from different ethnic groups.
Okay.
But that coup is being tagged as Igbo coup. It is not an Igbo coup. The reason why that coup became a failed coup was because of Igbo men. How is the coup tagged an Igbo coup when it was Igbo soldiers that stopped the coup from happening?
Exactly.
It is not an Igbo coup. Major John Obielu, Lieutenant Ojukwu, Major Agunyironsi were the ones that halted the coup. So how is it an Igbo coup when Igbos were the ones that halted the coup? That 1966 coup was led by Major Adewale Ademoyega, Captain Ganiyu Adeleke, Lieutenant Fola Oyewole, Lieutenant Ola Finiho, and also Kaduna Nzogu, who was born and brought up in Kaduna. Tell me why it was labeled an Igbo coup when it was carried out by soldiers from different ethnic groups. So tell me why it's labeled an Igbo coup. Why? How is it an Igbo coup when it was Major John Obielu, Lieutenant Ojukwu, Major Agunyironsi that stopped the coup? They were the ones that halted the coup. They crushed the coup and arrested Nsogu and the rest of them. Listen to what Lieutenant Odumegwu Ojukwu has to say about the 1966 coup.
Okay, listen.
The young officers had within Igbos, Yorubas, and Hausas. The way the Nigerian army was structured, you could not escape a preponderance of Igbo officers. And these were at the middle level because they were essentially majors. By then I was in a firm colonel, so I wasn't part of it. I was then commanding a battalion in Kano. The coup, ostensibly, because I later found out that the whole aim of the coup was to hold this apparent drift in Nigeria. But significantly, you know what they wanted to do? To create a presidential commission of army officers as a safeguard, the people who would guard the nation, and hand over the government to Chief Obafemi Awolowo. The idea was to release him from prison, make him prime minister, and in the hope that Nigeria would become a better place. That is actually how.
So it was really the Yorubas and their leader that were going to benefit
absolutely
from the coup, not the insinuation that it was an Igbo coup.
No, certainly not.
Okay, Your Excellency, we
and not only that, and I think because a lot of things have been said about this. Who actually halted the coup? Agunyironsi in Lagos, an Igbo. Emeka Odumegwu Ojukwu in Kano, an Igbo. The Igbos halted the coup. How can it be at the same time an Igbo coup halted by Igbos? There's something odd about that.
They said no Igbo officers died in the coup. That is a lie. Major Chinyaluku Negbe was gunned down alongside his wife by his own brother, Major Chris Anuforo. The intention of the 1966 coup has nothing to do with ethnicity. The intention was to release Obafemi Awolowo from prison. That was the intention. It was never an Igbo coup. It was never. Igbo officers were the ones that stopped the coup from happening. They halted the coup. How is it an Igbo coup when it was Igbo officers that halted the coup? How? Gwanum, how?
Not only to release Awolowo, but also make him just like what Ojukwu said, so you can take charge. But guess what? The people that always remind you that you carry that coup, just to use that to tarnish, to justify their crime and hate, are the same people from where I will come from. Funny enough, that's such a life. Lesson to learn: do not feed or help somebody that you know are going to use it against you later. Not everybody that begs actually deserve help. Now, everything that you just heard there about this coup and all that is still playing out today. The hatred is still playing out today. That agenda against Igbo, this and that is still playing out today. When they try to get back at Igbos, they will always start telling you stories like this and begin to just create, giving you their own version of history that has nothing to do with the reality on ground. Nothing whatsoever. The lady just was jumping the story. She was jumping it deliberately. Not that as if she don't know she's aware of what she's doing. Now, I want us to watch this so that you understand that when we, just a moment, let me get it up. Now, read this. A Yoruba person made this post, said, so Billog saw video of this lady from Ogun State crying and begging for job online and employed her into his company from Ogun State to Oka. This is great. Now let's watch the video.
I need a job. I don't know what will happen when I get to the peak of my breaking point, but I can't do anything later. I just need a job, please. I'm begging you guys, please.
Good morning, guys. This is Billog and with Korede. Korede, how are you? All the way from Ogun State. How do you like it here in Oka?
Oka is different. The pickup place and the reception is warm.
What about the people?
People are also people.
How do you feel being not having a job 2 weeks ago and having a job today? How do you feel?
It's something I didn't really expect and actually feel related, and thanks to Billog.
And shout out to Deadnot as well.
Yes, Deadnot, thank you so much.
So to Deadnot, I want to say thank you on behalf of Deadnot. We, the Billog Group, we decided to give Korede an opportunity to work at Billog Group as the head of Blunt Gadgets in Lagos. Korede, we can't wait to see your action. We can't wait to have you in our Lagos office. The people are ready, Lagos people are ready to order from you on behalf of the Billog Group. We say thank you. We say welcome to Billog Group.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, no problem. I want to say shout out to Korede. She's a brave woman, hardworking, respectful, welcoming. We've given her opportunity to work at Billog Group, and I know you guys are expecting a lot more from Korede. Korede, thank you so much, and we wish you safe flight back to Lagos. God bless you. Thank you. Bye.
Now, this woman is a Yoruba person, cried out for help and got help from Billog. You don't see them sharing it on Twitter. No. You don't see them talking about it. No. To them, it's their birthright. You get the point. I'm not against what Billog did. It's a very, very good thing to do. All right. Like I told you, I'm not here to preach hate, but to remind you that some of them they hate you not because of what you have done wrong, but because of who you are. But if you see a genuine, decent Yoruba person, I have no issue with you, doing business anything with the person, no problem. But let's not forget that you don't know who is who. Anything is possible. All right. Billog sharing, giving him, kind of his own kind heart to help her. She cried out for help and she got it. My own is that, like I said, I don't know. I don't know about you. Some people will say, don't trust them, don't trust them, don't try it. The choice is yours. Let me know what you think. If you are in a position of being or would you have employed her? Yes or no? If you ask me, of course, yes, I will. But I don't know about you. All this hate is not supposed to be there. But the reason why they can't even control it, because this was something that the knowledge they imparted on them at tender age. Like Shawara said, as a child growing up in Yoruba land, you have been told some certain things about Igbos that are somehow very, very annoying, and some things that can make one not to even want to associate with you. You see, they talked about Zogo. Can they accept that in Zogo's village is Igbo land? They will tell you no. It's in Delta. Please think about it. It must be you that's supposed to help yourself. It should be you. Anyway, let me know what you think. Like I said, thank you so much. And God bless you. Make sure you like the video. Very, very important. Like the video, like the video, like the video. And see you again. Bye-bye for now. God bless you.